Psychological projection is defined as a deflection of any criticism or flaw in yourself by accusing another of those actions or flaws of which you yourself are guilty of. As the narrative continues to collapse surrounding the claims of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, it becomes all too clear the claims of collusion between Russian officials and American political operatives are true. Yet it was neither President Donald Trump nor his campaign that are or were guilty, but instead the twice failed presidential candidate and former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton working with Russians and others in an effort to entrap Trump. That's already documented on paper. In a textbook example of psychological projection, President Trump's foes in and out of government wove a sinister yarn meant to try to take him down. The mainstream media, working as Clinton's propaganda mouthpiece, attempted to convince the American collective populace of the tale of Trump selling his soul to the Russians for campaign dirt to use against Hillary Clinton, beginning with the now infamous Trump Tower meeting. Events surrounding that now famous June 2016 Trump meeting suggests it too was supposedly a concoction of Clinton and her deep state allies, and that meeting was the basis for much of the later Russian collusion investigation, if it can even be called that. A growing body of evidence has been demonstrating in no certain terms that meeting may very well have been a setup and part of a much larger effort to tarnish the president in a concerted disinformation campaign involving operatives for Clinton employed by individuals linked to both the Kremlin and the Department of Justice itself. Do you see the reverse psychology here? Do as I say, not as I do. Even more startling is the mainstream media knows this, yet they're ignoring the damning evidence that continues to mount nearly by the hour, continuing instead to peddle this false narrative of fictional Russian collusion. And they probably mean to do it for the next 7 to 8 years, or as long as President Trump is in office. It's just a stall tactic. In tactics straight out of the playbook of Joseph Goebbels, the appointed minister of propaganda of Nazi Germany, in an effort to secure American compliance for their own demise to the globalist agenda of the deep state, the American people must be compliant. Yet while external compliance can be commanded, internal beliefs is an asset freely given. And yes, they are complicit. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes of California concurs with this assessment and has revealed just how far Clinton's tentacles have reached nearly every level. Nunes stated this last weekend in an interview with Fox News. Hillary Clinton's campaign colluded with nearly every top official in the Justice Department and FBI, and that is documented.
Christopher Steele.
Well, I think what it really means, I think it will look badly on the Department of Justice and the FBI on how they conducted this investigation.
Right.
That's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. We're trying to put clarity and sunlight for the American people so they know everything that happened on how this investigation began.
It kind of sounds as if your congressional investigators got the information regarding this secret source, it sounds like that might call into question the narrative we've heard so far. It's like, oh, really? It didn't happen like that at all.
Well, I think if the campaign was somehow set up, I think that would be a problem, right? If there were somehow meetings that occurred and all this was a setup, because we have yet to see any credible evidence or intelligence that led to the opening of this investigation.
By you saying that, it makes it sound like you believe Donald Trump was framed.
Well, look, I believe that they didn't have that. Well, first of all, I believe they never should have opened a counterintelligence investigation into a political party. Counterintelligence investigations are very rarely do they happen, and when they do happen, you have to be very careful because you're using the tools of our intelligence services and relationships with other countries in order to spy on a political campaign. Probably not a good idea.
And Mr. Chairman, you were just talking about Bruce Ohr, and I want to get right to that because he becomes the central figure now in this investigation. Your colleagues over on the Judiciary Committee have now subpoenaed him, and we have a date. He's going to testify in front of Judiciary on August 28th. Why is he so central to this story?
Well, because what's come out now, Maria, is that he has been the go-between Christopher Steele. So once Christopher Steele was terminated as a source for doing all things like talking to the media at the behest of Glenn Simpson. So remember, he was working for Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, who were working for the Clinton campaign. Christopher Steele was fired. A lot of this information wasn't shared with the FISA court, especially the fact that Christopher Steele was desperate that Donald Trump not become president. After that happened, Bruce Ohr, one of the top lawyers in the Department of Justice, kept continually meeting and providing information from Christopher Steele to who? The FBI. This is just madness. The American people need to know it. And I will tell you, like I said in the last segment, the fact that the media is ignoring this is even more of a reason that we're going to have more information than usual declassified. We're going to have, I think, an unprecedented amount of information declassified because the media is just not covering this topic. And I'll just kind of close it with this. Don't forget that Bruce Ohr's wife, Nellie Ohr, who also will have to be interviewed soon, she also was working for Fusion GPS, working for the Clinton campaign. So here you have information flowing from the Clinton campaign, from the Russians, likely I believe was handed directly from Russian propaganda arms to the Clinton campaign, fed into the top levels of the FBI and Department of Justice to open up a counterintelligence investigation into a political campaign that is now polluted nearly every top official at the DOJ and FBI over the course of the last couple of years.
Well, that is what is so extraordinary.
Amazing. And quite frankly, it's what you kind of see in this part of the world where I'm at now.
Right. I mean, the president has said maybe he would declassify this. What's wrong with declassifying all of this information so the American people understand exactly what took place? Because you're right. This is an incredible story, and that is why we are doing it every Sunday morning to make sure the American people are informed as far as what went on. Do you think the president will declassify this so that people understand what took place?
I think he really has no choice because I will tell you, you're gonna end up with a situation with half of America, including nearly every Republican member of Congress, who will have zero confidence in the Department of Justice and FBI. And that just can't be. We have to have a strong Department of Justice and a strong FBI that stays out of politics. And if we don't get that soon, I think it's just going to continue to deteriorate. Well, and I think it's like the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, said several months ago, the Department of Justice and FBI need to decide whether or not they want to be part of the cleanup crew or the cover-up crew. And so right now, I just want to be clear, they are providing, slowly, but they are providing documentation. But we're going to have all of this information declassified, and we need an investigation into these top-level people as to how somebody concocted the idea that it's okay to take information from one political campaign and use it to open up an investigation on the other on somebody else's opposing political party.
Right.
It's absolutely nuts.
And you've said many times on this program that there was zero evidence, official evidence, available to launch an investigation into collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. There was no evidence. It was all based on that unverified dossier.